KBLA 1580. We've got you black.
Live from historic Leimert Park in Los Angeles, California, I'm Tavis Smiley, and I'm so glad to see you and me back in stride again. Before we get started with today's show, let me invite you to follow me on Facebook and Instagram at The Real Tavis Smiley, and get updates on X, that's formerly Twitter, at Tavis Smiley. By the way, should you miss any part of today's program, or want to catch up on previous shows, you can always visit thetavismiley.com. That's thetavismiley.com, or wherever you get your podcast, and listen to the Tavis Smiley podcast version of this live program at your leisure. Another great show on tap for you today. In our second hour, renowned social ethicist and theologian Gary Dorian discusses the 60th anniversary of the Civil Rights Act, his latest text, A Darkly Radiant Vision, the Social Gospel in the Shadow of MLK, and why America needs a renewed moral vision right now, right now, right now. God knows we need a new and renewed moral vision in this country. I digress for now, but I will get into it with Gary Dorian in our second hour. In our third hour today, Brianna Joy Gray is back with her sharp political and legal insights about the politicization of the U.S. Supreme Court in light of its decision yesterday to grant Donald Trump substantial immunity, and that is reverberating like crazy. You've got some breaking news to share in just a moment. That decision reverberating inside Washington, and for that matter, outside Washington as well. Stand by for that. We'll also talk about democratic socialism and whether and how Black America might have a different conversation about an alternative presidential choice. As you know, Brianna was once press secretary for the presidential campaign of Bernie Sanders, and she now hosts her own podcast called Bad Faith. So Brianna Joy Gray today in our third hour. All that said, we will commence today's program in conversation with one of my favorite guests, the editorial director and publisher of The Nation magazine, Katrina vanden Heuvel. Before I get to Katrina, a couple of things I said, breaking news. First of all, there is this. It's one of those days. Speaking of the immunity decision yesterday by the U.S. Supreme Court, Manhattan prosecutors have agreed to delay Donald Trump's criminal sentencing to weigh whether the recent immunity ruling may imperil his conviction. So for all of you who were waiting for July the 11th to see Donald Trump back in court to see what he was going to be sentenced to, that sentencing has now been delayed given this decision yesterday, and Alvin Bragg and his team were trying to figure out how that decision might imperil his conviction. So there's a delay now in the sentencing of Donald Trump. He's having a pretty good couple days this week, as it were. And so there's that breaking news. If you were listening to our program, there's also this breaking news. Speaking of Donald Trump, where's it at? So much. Rudolph Giuliani, former mayor of New York, who got in all kind of trouble hanging out with Donald Trump and breaking the law with Donald Trump. News has just come that Rudy Giuliani has been disbarred from practice in the state of New York. So Giuliani is disbarred from ever practicing law again in the state of New York. I told you, breaking news everywhere. If you were listening to our program yesterday, you heard us in conversation with the attorney, Kevin Sharp, for the long-time incarcerated Leonard Peltier, the Native American activist in prison for almost 50 years. Kevin Sharp told us yesterday that they thought the decision on his parole, the first parole hearing in 15 years, might come yesterday following that conversation. It has come this morning, on this Tuesday. Leonard Peltier has been denied, once again, his parole request after almost 50 years in prison. So Leonard Peltier denied parole. You heard that amazing conversation yesterday, again with Kevin Sharp, former federal judge himself. The prosecutor in this case asked for compassionate release. The judge in this case asked for compassionate release. He was represented by a former federal judge, and all of that made no difference. All those persons who had been a part of the legal process, as it were, asking for compassionate release. Leonard Peltier, basically 80 years old now, and the government just would not back down in this case, so he is denied parole. So there's that. Leonard Peltier. Rudolph Giuliani, no longer allowed to practice law in the state of New York. Alvin Bragg has asked for a delay. So there will be no sentencing of Donald Trump on July the 11th. What a day, what a day, what a day. And I ain't even got to Katrina Vanden Heuvel yet. Let me just say there's a whole lot more to talk about with Katrina Vanden Heuvel when we come forward. I don't even want to start and give her like 30 seconds to sound off on what I've just said so far, much less the other things on my docket. Going to be a great show. All 3 hours. Katrina Vanden Heuvel, Gary Dorian, Brianna Joy Gray. It's going to be fire all day for the next 3 hours. You're listening, and I'm glad about it, to Tavis Smiley.
Hope, agency, dignity. This is Tavis Smiley.
Can you dig it? Come on!
Make a move into a home of your own. With City National Bank's Ladder Up Home Loan Grant, you could receive up to $20,000 that you never need to pay back. Use it toward your down payment, save on closing costs, or to buy down your mortgage rate. Find out more at cnb.com/ladderuphome. City National, here for every stage of the journey. Property must be in a qualifying market in California, New York, or New Jersey. Additional terms and conditions apply. Not all applicants will qualify. Terms are subject to change without notice. City National Bank is an equal housing lender. Member FDIC. NMLS number 536994.
When you get nachos, tacos, empanadas, spicy queso with jalapenos, Pepto-Bismol's there. Pepto-Bismol provides fast, effective relief from nausea, heartburn, indigestion, upset stomach, and diarrhea. All the things that can happen unexpectedly on vacation. So before you travel, pack the Pepto. Pepto-Bismol.
When you have nausea, heartburn, indigestion, upset stomach, diarrhea.
Use as directed. Keep out of reach of children.
Prescriptions require an online consultation with a healthcare provider who will determine if appropriate. Restrictions apply. See website for details and important safety information. Subscription required. Price varies based on product and subscription plan.
Hey guys, did you know there's a generic form of Viagra that works just the same, but is 95% cheaper? And you can get it online? Go to hims.com/joy. Through HIMS, you'll get a free medical consultation, discreet shipping if prescribed, and the process is 100% online. To start your free online visit, go to hims.com/joy. That's HIMS.com/JOY.
Paid for by government. Did you hear? A secret hoard of 1904 $20 gold Liberty coins have been found. These gorgeous 1904p gold coins are as bright and shiny as the day they were struck, and less than 500 of these gold coins are available. Coin experts are calling this secret U.S. gold coin discovery a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, and you can own a piece of the hoard. When you call, you are guaranteed a 1904 gold Liberty struck at the iconic Philadelphia Mint. With limited availability, you must call now. These 1904 dated gold coins are still in uncirculated condition with brilliant luster. That is 120 years of history you can hold in your hand. To learn more, call 1-800-973-3083. Call now and you'll receive a free bonus, a $75 value free with every order. Call 1-800-973-3083 now to secure your 1904p $20 gold Liberty coins before they sell out. That's 1-800-973-3083.
Who do you trust to get at the truth? Tavis Smiley. That's who. The conversation continues right now.
Well, it doesn't continue. I ain't got started yet with Katrina Vanden Heuvel, editorial director and publisher of The Nation. I need her patience just one more minute, and then I'll let her go the rest of the hour. We've been talking, of course, in case you've just tuned in, about all the breaking news today. Leonard Peltier denied parole. That conversation we had on this program yesterday with his attorney. The DA in Manhattan, Alvin Bragg, has decided that they're going to wait. They're going to push sentencing on that was originally set for July 11th. They're going to push the sentencing of Donald Trump in New York in the case of Stormy Daniels and the hush money payments. They want to see and have some more time to wrestle with, to marinate on what this immunity decision by the Supreme Court means for his conviction in their case. So that sentencing has been delayed. The Supreme Court, as you know, kicked down back to the lower court this decision about immunity, but having in advance given him broad immunity. The Supreme Court did to Donald Trump. So the reverberations everywhere. Rudolph Giuliani today disbarred from practicing law in New York. A lot going on. But yesterday, so that's all the breaking news today. Yesterday, the breaking news was President Biden speaking in the White House, sharing his thoughts about the Supreme Court decision on immunity for Donald Trump. Here now, the president yesterday.
Perhaps even more importantly, it's an office that can test your character. Because you not only face moments when you need the courage to exercise the full power of the presidency, you also face moments where you need the wisdom to respect the limits of the power of the office of the presidency. This nation was founded on the principle that there are no kings in America. Each of us is equal before the law. No one is above the law, not even the President of the United States. With today's Supreme Court decision on presidential immunity, that fundamentally changed. For all practical purposes, today's decision almost certainly means that there are virtually no limits on what a president can do. This is a fundamentally new principle, and it's a dangerous precedent, because the power of the office will no longer be constrained by the law, even including the Supreme Court of the United States. The only limits will be self-imposed by the president alone.
Katrina Vanden Heuvel, I feel like we're playing a game of Jeopardy, and I'm looking at the big board standing behind me, and there's so many choices for you to make. Where do you want to start this conversation? What do you choose first of all the options today?
Let me start. Hey, Tavis. First of all, we have a criminal injustice system in this country. It's heartbreaking to hear that so many urged the system to give Leonard Peltier, now 80, parole. But let me go. Our justice correspondent, Elie Mistal, I'm sure, hope you've had him on.
Love him all the time, yes.
Love him, love him. He titled his piece yesterday, "The President Can Now Assassinate You, officially." What we've seen, Tavis, over the last few decades is a relentless rise of executive power. One might call it the imperial presidency, but this has reached the point where a Supreme Court essentially says what Elie wrote. And it is very dangerous because no person should be above the law. We know there are injustices in our legal system, that many are not treated the same way, but we aspire to that. And this court is dismantling and rolling back the civilizing advances of our country. And that's where I think we need to, what with all the debate stuff and critical, but it relates cleanly to these decisions which have come down in synchronous violation of our democracy in the last days as we've debated President Biden's performance and where next. The court reminds us in its unwisdom of the fact that we have a what's at stake.
Yeah. Let me go to the point you made first, and that is whether or not you see this, and it may not be either or, it may be both and, you tell me. But since you raised it, I want to follow you. Whether or not you see this primarily, this decision by the court yesterday on immunity for Trump, whether you see this primarily as their continuing effort to expand, as you put it correctly, executive power. Is it just about that, or was it about giving Donald Trump cover? Either or, both and, you tell me, because they've been doing this for quite some time. So it's just a continuation, to your point, of expanding executive power. So which is it?
I think both. I think we're seeing with Trump's appointments the rise of a kind of extreme right on the court. These are his appointments. And if not his appointments, they're following his direction with ever more vigor. So I think, you hear Sotomayor, and dissents are often the most brilliant decisions from the bench, talk about essentially the democracy at risk. But Trump is not an aberration, though he's an ugly aberration at the same time. But we've seen the rise of an imperial presidency over time. But I think we're at a very dangerous moment. And the previous day, I believe, was something called the Chevron decision, which essentially is kind of fulfilling Mr. Steve Bannon's vision of dismantling the administrative state so that you're replacing agencies with expertise, and not always 100% right, but better than presidential appointees who are going to do their own bidding without guardrails. So that's what we're watching happen. And the nation, I want to just say, turns 159 years old tomorrow. We were founded in New York in 1865, July 1865. And the first line was, "The week was barren of exciting events." I've not felt that. I've never felt that. But we have had writers like Martin Luther King Jr., who was our civil rights correspondent from 61 to 67, and speaking with a prophetic vision and a morality that is not too much to expect, that we have a kind of not bad faith, speaking of Rihanna, but a faith that is about the moral integrity of a system that seems increasingly degraded.
Yeah. We will talk, since Katrina mentioned it, we will talk about this Chevron case that impacts government in a way that you cannot imagine. We've been talking about the debate, as Katrina said, that's the topic du jour. Now we're talking about the Supreme Court decision yesterday, but this Chevron case impacts into the future life as we know it in ways unimagined. Tomorrow, in our very first hour, we will lead the show tomorrow with our resident legal analyst and towering public intellectual, Connie Rice. And we're going to spend some time tomorrow getting you up to speed on this Chevron decision and its impact on the way we govern or will govern in the future. So tomorrow, do not miss the first hour. Make sure you're up to speed again on this Chevron case and the impact it is going to have on your life in the years to come. Connie will break that down for us tomorrow. Yes, Katrina.
Could I just say,
sure.
Connie Smith, wow.
Connie Rice.
Connie Rice. Connie Rice. You know, there are other issues in our country, but I remember many years ago we published a piece at The Nation. It was Connie Rice with Tom Hayden. And they brought a lawsuit against the transportation agency in Los Angeles because the buses just weren't running, you know, people who had to go to work.
That's right.
And it was a great civil rights lawsuit. Transportation is a civil rights issue. But I've always thought there would be a great profile of Connie and her cousin.
Yeah, Condoleezza, yeah.
Anyway, but I haven't heard. I'm glad she's
she's
obviously still.
No, she's on tomorrow. And that's always fascinating for me. I mean, Connie and I have laughed about it many times. One is Connie. Her real name is Constance.
Right.
We call her Connie. And Condoleezza, we call Condi. And people always get confused when they first glance at my rundown. He's got Condi Rice. Oh, no. Condi is the Republican who worked for George Bush. Connie is the progressive, but they are first cousins, and it's always fascinating when you see the two of them in the same room. That's really interesting. But I digress on that for now. You mentioned MLK and his writing for The Nation. I want to come back to that in just a second. After I remind the audience that we will talk about MLK again in our second hour today when Gary Dorian joins us talking about his book, A Darkly Radiant Vision, the Black Social Gospel in the Shadow of MLK, and how this nation needs, now more than ever, a renewed moral vision. So we'll talk about King in the second hour. Here comes Katrina Vanden Heuvel now reminding me that Dr. King was a correspondent for The Nation magazine. That's got to be like the bellwether, the high water mark. And there have been many in the history of The Nation, of which you are the publisher and the editorial director. But just talk to me briefly about what it meant in the history of The Nation for King to be one of your columnists.
So he wrote an annual audit of the state of civil rights in The Nation. But I think one of the high points was, and people often forget, that Reverend King spoke at Riverside Church just up the street from me here in New York City.
Sure.
In '67, he spoke out against the Vietnam War.
That's right.
He could not imagine that you could have civil rights at home waging a war abroad as we did. And he spoke out. And what I value about The Nation is even King's colleagues in the civil rights movement stepped back from him then, and they didn't feel he had made the right decision to speak out. Political figures, the mainstream media, the New York Times, the Washington Post criticized him fiercely. The Nation called his voice a great prophetic voice, and I think that that's important to measure. We now have Reverend Barber, who has become our civil rights correspondent, and is following in the King tradition, in the sense that this past weekend, you may have covered it, he had a Poor People's Campaign mobilization in Washington. But I think it's the voices he spoke, King wrote so beautifully and he spoke so eloquently, but his actions were critical, and I think it took great courage along the way as he led this nation, but certainly around wars, because someday, Tavis, I want to see a debate about how best to prevent wars rather than how best to fight them, as front and center in our presidential and other campaigns. And King, I think, came, there's a debate about King. There are many kings, but there is a king of socialist vision. There's a king, social democracy, but also deeply anti-war. And that has to be respected.
Nope, no question about it. As you know, I've written about that. I wrote that book, Death of the King. That is the only book that literally tracks him from April 4, 67. This is the frame of the book. It's just 1 year. April 4, 67, the moment he stands at the pulpit in Riverside to deliver that Beyond Vietnam speech, to April 4, 68, a year to the day later when they killed him. And so I know that speech quite well, and people always think, many people think that because it's the one they're exposed to, many people think that the I Have a Dream speech is the best speech King ever gave. It's not. I could debate you on 3 or 4 others, maybe even more than 3 or 4, but that's because you have to know his entire corpus. He killed it, to be sure, on I Have a Dream. No doubt about what he did that day at the March on Washington, but there's so much more to his body of work, and that Beyond Vietnam speech is a pretty good one. I digress on that for now, Let me read something from one of our listeners. I'm getting stuff everywhere, as I have for the past few days, you can imagine, given the debate last Thursday, which I want to take your temperature on. Let me just read this, though. I want to read it slow so it sinks in for everybody. You heard Katrina Vanden Heuvel, our guest, editorial director, publisher of The Nation, say moments ago that the piece that their brilliant correspondent, who's a regular guest on this program, Elie Mystal, has written for The Nation is entitled, "The President Can Now Assassinate You Officially." That's not a joke. "The President Can Now Assassinate You Officially" is the title of the piece that Elie has written for The Nation magazine. Go read it for yourself. So then listen to this comment from one of our listeners. "So Tavis, the MAGA Supremes just ruled that Biden is presumptively immune from prosecution for criminal acts done to execute core presidential functions. Eliminating threats to national security is a core Article 2 responsibility, like bin Laden. 2 congressional investigations and 2 grand juries have found Trump's actions endangered the nation. So is Joe Biden ordering up SEAL Team 6 right now?"
So, very smart question from your listener. There's a guy named Harold Koh, who's a lawyer at Yale, not to be digressive, who's written a book about the national security state. And when he was a professor, he was very much about holding executive power accountable so could not murder, assassinate. He then went into the Obama White House, and they found a way to justify killing of terrorism. And in the course of it, there was an assassination of an American. What is done in the name of national security is often illegal in the international law code, but is justified by those in the national security state. I mean, we could go back to Chile. We could go back to Central America, the killing of nuns, what happened during post-9/11. We're witnessing it, Tavis, with the International Criminal Court, which is U.S. is not signed, but it is a good point about who is immune, who is not immune. And I think,
No, finish your thought. I'm sorry. You think what?
I think executive power has to be held accountable.
Yeah.
In the like Donald Rumsfeld during the Iraq War went to Germany and he was confronted with arrest warrants, but he was not. The German government didn't have standing power. Yeah. But this is a very serious discussion that transcends even Trump Supreme Court, but where we're heading as a democracy. With all the talk about democracy, we often forget what are the true core elements of a democracy. No question. What I want to return to this comment because what this very brilliant listener is getting to, and I have a really, really smart audience, is why I have smart guests who come on to talk to this and engage this smart audience. But the fact that this person put their finger on this, which is so important, if Joe Biden is, given this ruling yesterday, presumptively immune from prosecution for whatever he may do while he's president,
given that Donald Trump has already been proven to be a threat to national security, he could kill Donald Trump. He could send.
I'm not laughing.
No, but I mean, it's true.
Laughing.
I mean, given this decision yesterday, this is no joke. That's why Ellie Mustal writes the piece. That's why Ellie writes the piece. The president can now assassinate you officially. That includes Joe Biden sending SEAL Team 6 to go kill Donald Trump because he's been found already to be a threat to national security. And since he did it while he was president, he'd be presumptively immune given the decision they made yesterday. That's how serious this decision is, Katrina. How whack it is.
It is wacky, but it is fundamentally very dangerous. If Joe Biden ran a different kind of presidency, it is fully possible that he would be moved to do what you just said.
Yeah.
I don't think he'd kill. It's not killing Donald Trump. It's just giving him an arrest warrant. You could put him in the same cell as Steve Bannon, talking accountability.
Yeah.
But let me put it this way. It is very serious what we're talking about. On the other hand, I knew Terry Southern, who wrote Dr. Strangelove, and he stopped writing in the last few years of his life because reality had exceeded satire.
Wow.
This is very dangerous satire. But the court is really out of bounds. I mean, the question of what we do with the court, Tavis, and I'm sure you've talked to Ellie and others about it, is a very serious discussion because
hold that thought. I want to talk about what we do with the court. We've had this conversation, as Katrina said, many times with Ellie. Ellie wrote a brilliant book about this. He opines about it better than anybody in the country. We'll get him back on this program sometime soon now that we see, again, the ways in which this court is moving. But there is a conversation to be had, and Katrina and I will have some of it when we come forward, about what we do about this out-of-control court. What agency do the people have over these outrageous decisions? They're appointed for life. So what agency do we, the people, have? And what do we do about a Supreme Court that has clearly run amok? We'll talk about that part and some other issues we'll get to with Katrina Vanden Heuvel, editorial director, publisher of The Nation magazine, who I'm pleased to have as my guest right now on Tavis Smiley.
What's your quarrel with the world? You're listening to Tavis Smiley.
Paid for by government.com. Did you know? The United States Mint has issued a new Morgan silver dollar coin in proof condition for the first time. Not only that, they are also minted in 99.9% pure silver for the first time ever in history. Coin experts are calling this an amazing opportunity for anyone that knows the enduring popularity of Morgans. But you must hurry. Only 400,000 of these legal tender silver dollars were issued. These first ever Morgan silver dollars are brand new with stunning mirror-like finish, minted by the iconic San Francisco Mint. Call now and you're guaranteed a new first ever 99.9% pure silver proof Morgan dollar. To learn more, call 1-800-973-9717. If you order now, you will receive a free coin collector bonus pack, a $25 value, free with every order. Call 1-800-973-9717 now to secure your new Morgan silver dollars before they are gone. That's 1-800-973-9717.
I'm Mike Moore. Here's the latest from the Black Information Network. A former U.S. Capitol officer who defended the Capitol during the January 6th riot says Donald Trump is the single greatest threat to democracy. Harry Dunn, who is African American, joined a call with the Biden campaign yesterday and slammed the Supreme Court's decision that Trump and other presidents are partially immune from criminal prosecution. Americans are traveling this summer and accumulating debt in order to do it. According to Bankrate, 36% say they plan to take on debt in order to travel this summer. 26% of those summer travelers say they intend to use a credit card to pay for the vacation over multiple billing cycles. With the average credit card charging over 20% interest at the moment, this is worrisome to many financial experts. And that's the latest. I'm Mike Moore from your 24/7 news source, the Black Information Network and BINnews.com.
With Staples Hot Deals, you'll find super low prices on hundreds of items for back to school. Right now, 24-pack Crayola crayons and comp books are just 50 cents each at Staples. Plus, save even more with the Easy Rewards program. In-store only offer ends 8/24, limit 20. Save big on back to school at Staples.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
NBA sources claim LeBron made a phone call to Klay Thompson to ask him to consider signing with the Lakers as a free agent. Thompson appreciated LeBron's gesture, but he chose the Dallas Mavericks. ending a spectacular 13-year career with the Golden State Warriors. 4 NBA championships, 6 NBA finals, 5 All-Star appearances, and 1 3-point shooting title during All-Star Weekend in 2016. The 34-year-old Thompson, son of Lakers radio analyst Michael Thompson, would have looked good in a Lakers uniform. Thompson signed a 3-year deal with Dallas worth $50 million. Apparently, Thompson thought his chances of competing for an NBA title are better with Dallas. At age 27, Simone Biles will be the oldest member of the U.S. Olympic women's gymnastics team. Biles qualified for her 3rd Olympics. She has a combined 7 medals in the first 2. 4 of the medals are gold. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
We've got a lot to talk about.
Hi, I'm Zoe Williams, a.k.a. the Voice of Reason, encouraging you to join me weekdays from 7 to 9 p.m. for the world's most intriguing relationship radio roundtable. Every night, I facilitate and encourage our loyal listeners to participate in the most engaging relationship discussions you'll hear anywhere. So make it a point to rendezvous with me, Zoe Williams, the Voice of Reason, Monday through Friday, 7 to 9 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Trust me, your relationships will never be the same. The VOR is on fire tonight.
Unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black. This is KBLA Talk 1580. Talk radio. That's music to your ears. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580.
Some people just know the best rate for you is a rate based on you with Allstate, not one based on anyone else. So if you drive safely, you could save money. Good to know. Visit allstate.com or call for a quote today.
Are you tired of being stuck without internet access? Connect and go with LA County Library. It's simple. Visit your local LA County Library location and borrow a hotspot for free to get Wi-Fi wherever you are.
Chevy Radio 30 before and after, code GWMR0254000.
With the incredibly spacious 3-row Chevy Traverse, you can change
Let's just meet at the concert.
into
Why don't I pick all you guys up on the way?
the advanced safety engineered Chevy Blazer EV lets you turn. You think we should turn back? Into
full steam ahead.
And with the affordable Equinox EV,
Keep an eye out for the next Charger, kids.
becomes
Get comfortable, kids. We'll be home in 4 hours.
for summer adventures, Chevy's got you. Chevrolet, together let's drive.
Hey guys, do you want male performance in the bedroom and do you want it now? Get it in 47 seconds or less. For the first time, you can have instant male enhancement. Introducing Nox 47, the topical male enhancement that works in 47 seconds or less. Satisfaction guaranteed. Finally, after years of scientific research, our proprietary formula will allow you to perform in the bedroom like never before. Just imagine that little blue pill on steroids. No reason to settle and wait when you can get instant performance now. Forget about pills and potions that make you wait hours or up to 30 days to work. That's yesterday's news. Nox 47 is brand new. The hottest thing for men. And you don't need a prescription. Call now and get your free supply for a limited time.
To find out how to get Nox 47 for free, call now. 800-617-1621. That's 800-617-1621. Free bottles for limited time. Call 800-617-1621. That's 800-617-1621.
Smart talk for curious people just like you. You're listening to Tavis Smiley.
Tavis Smiley and Katrina Vandenheuvel, editor-director and publisher of The Nation magazine. We continue our conversation in light of this Supreme Court decision on immunity for Donald Trump, broad immunity. We are continuing our dialogue now about what Katrina refers to as, and she's right, the imperial presidency of Donald Trump. And an imperial presidency can lead to, as it did in his case, an out-of-control Supreme Court. And the question, Katrina, given this decision yesterday that everybody is just up in arms about, of course, not Donald Trump, not the MAGA crowd, but anybody who really cares about the future of this democracy and, again, an out-of-control executive branch, has to be concerned about this decision. Let me say very quickly, I've been heartened over the last 24 hours or so to see the broad response across the country. And again, outside of Trump's sycophants, most Americans, as I've seen, are expressing concern about what this means for an overreach of power in the executive branch and all that the president can now do, apparently, and be held immune from. And so my question is twofold, and I'll get out of your way. The first is, what do we do about an out of control Supreme Court, and what agency do the American people have when they are watching a system, a branch of government that is moving in ways that it finds beyond troubling?
So don't get out of my way, please, but thank you for the two-part there. I do think that what we're looking at right now is an assault on our country, on scorning of the history and text and intent of the Constitution. What we could do, and there's more, one of the silver linings of this Trump apocalypse is that people are more aware of the operations of our democracy. When did you last hear people talk about the filibuster, right? I mean, years ago, people weren't really fixed on taking out the filibuster for the sake of representation of people's views. People are calling in with understanding about what the court is doing. Now, in terms of what can be done, I think inside there should be a move to add members to the court. And you could have term limits by age or years of service. And that, you could subpoena Roberts to appear before the Senate and explain his reasoning. And this is not new, Tavis, you know this. I mean, years ago, Franklin Roosevelt, people used to scoff or scorn, quote, court packing. I was raised in a family which, adored Roosevelt. And, there were always issues with the president, but on this case, it was court reform. It wasn't court packing. He didn't in the end have to do it because a switch in time led to 9 or something. But I think we need to come back and retrieve what we've learned in our history and really begin either adding members to the court or term limits. In terms of what people can do, court decisions are often a reflection of the state of the country, the mood of the country, the opinions in the country. I still think that Roberts, the Chief Justice, kind of related to reality when he didn't dismantle ACA. You remember? I mean, the court was going to dismantle ACA.
Sure.
And he then, though he seems to have gone off the rails in these years, the Trump factor, understood that the court was going to lose a lot of its legitimacy if it did not stand with ACA, which it did. The question now is, the key question is to elect a president or at least take back the House and Senate in order to stop more issues with, with these kinds of court picks.
So to that end, I'm glad you said it. It takes me straight to where I think this conversation is pushing us. And let me get it out, and I'll let you respond.
Please.
It seems to me that what we're talking about right now, which is the fragility of our democracy, an imperial presidency, that if he wins again will be imperial on steroids. It seems to me that this is underscoring why there has to be a sincere, transparent, robust conversation about Joe Biden remaining on the ticket. We've had all this debate since the debate about whether he should stay on, whether he should relinquish, etc., etc. But all of this puts more light or more heat, maybe both, depending on one's perspective, on the Biden situation.
Yes.
Because if you really, really believe that Donald Trump represents an existential threat to the democracy, as everybody does, and now that you see the Supreme Court saying he has immunity from doing anything in the future, and you've already seen the everything that he's already done, it makes this issue far more acute and far more serious and far more relevant and resonant about Joe Biden and this decision. And I'm not saying what his decision ought to be in this particular moment. I'm just saying that conversation about whether he stays, exactly, it cannot be disconnected from this conversation. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. I mean, as I've said at the top of the show, Tavis, what was so eerie, you could see clearly what was at stake in these last days, not simply the fallout from the debate, but the court decisions coming down as kind of a toxic waterfall behind the stage. But every day there was a tick, 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 clock, clock, clock of these decisions. So I think people, the mainstream in a curious way, New York Times, New Yorker, Ezra Klein, I think, Thomas Friedman, have kind of weighed in that for the sake of the country, President Biden has to step down. There are others who are more pragmatic, worried that if Biden stepping down at this moment would be lead to a fractious convention, would lead to confusion. But I think that if you're going to say Biden steps down, Kamala Harris has to become president, presumptive president. The idea of opening it up to an open convention is also something we've discussed at The Nation of published scenarios. I think it's tough unless Kamala decides to step down and join the pool, but it could lead to a fractious convention. And the symbolism of heading to Chicago in 2024 with a fractious convention is dismaying to many. I also think something you just said, which is you got to understand the scope of this campaign extends beyond the presidency. The presidency is critical.
That's right.
The 33 Senate, all 435 House seats. I think we take back the House this year. My good state of New York was a lousy player in the last congressional races. The Senate may be more difficult, but you could do a lot with the House and Senate. But the key is to, maintain the presidency. And I think, for now it looks like, partly because the DNC's hunkered down, donors have hunkered down, it's not exactly a Democratic look, but that Biden is going to stay. He's going to go out campaigning. He's going to speak more openly about the fact that he's not a marathon runner, but he's going to keep in the race. So, I have a very interesting. I mean, it's not interesting, but I think Biden's domestic administration has been the most progressive since Lyndon Johnson's Great Society in terms of legislation that he's passed. I think the foreign policy put that aside right now, but it's not just that he's old, but he has a kind of old vision of a world in which America is the indispensable nation. I think we're a great nation, but I think there are other nations rising too.
Well, it does indeed, I think, do what we just said it does, which is to raise the question of whether in this critical moment, Democrats rally around the president and they ride this out. For the sake of saving the democracy. You rally around him and you ride this out and try to get him across the finish line at 81 or 82. Or if he's going to step off, he has to step off now. And whatever happens next, I mean, to your point about Kamala taking over, her poll numbers are worse than his. And so people are scared about her more so than him. So there are a number of ways this thing cuts. But at the end of the day, I think that is the central question that Democrats have to wrestle with in this moment, given this decision yesterday by the court. Do we rally around him and get him across the finish line? Or do we pressure him to get out and dump him now? It's much more, as I said, acute now than it was even 48 hours ago. More with Katrina Vanden Heuvel when we come forward on Tavis Smiley.
Interrogating and unpacking. That's what we do around here. You're listening to Tavis Smiley.
We ask seniors how to prevent Medicare scams.
My best advice, if you get a phone call, do not talk to the person. These people are well-trained. Don't talk to them.
They don't know me. They're just trying to scam me.
Don't be fooled. Hang up. Just hang up.
Never give out your Medicare number.
They're going to get your number to put in a false claim.
If I get a call from someone, I don't pick up the phone. And should I pick up the phone and they ask for information, then I hang up.
How do you detect Medicare fraud?
Just like I check my credit card statements, I check my Medicare statements monthly.
Scammers can get a hold of your number, order medical devices through your account, and you're not even going to know about it if you don't look at your statement.
Check your statement every month.
If you get your statement and you see something that you know you did not have done, you report it.
Call your Senior Medicare Patrol.
To report Medicare fraud, call the Senior Medicare Patrol at 855-613-7080.
Happy anniversary, KBLA!
KBLA Talk 1580 is now celebrating 3 years of amplifying our voice and uplifting our community. We deeply appreciate your support of this radio station and will always do our level best to earn your support. Here's to many more years of loving and serving our community. We're KBLA Talk 1580, and we've got your black. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. Stay Housed LA has the resources you need to know your rights and the legal support to back them up. The COVID-19 pandemic has cost people their jobs and livelihoods. This has left an estimated 1/3 of households not being able to make rent and facing losing their homes. This is a fear no one in our community should have to face. You have rights, though, and Stay Housed LA is here to help. Stay Housed LA is a partnership between the County of Los Angeles, the City of Los Angeles, and local community and legal service providers. Together, they provide tenants with the information and support needed to exercise their rights so they can remain safely in their homes. Find out more about your rights by participating in a virtual tenant workshop. Get the legal assistance you need. Find additional resources in Los Angeles County and the City of Los Angeles. Stay connected to Stay Housed LA County for updates. This and more at stayhousedla.org. Stay connected to Stay Housed LA for updates. This and more at stayhousedla.org. That's stayhousedla.org. Or call their hotline at 213-694-0040. We've got your black with a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
Let's get back to more of Tavis Smiley right now.
Well, Katrina Vandenhoover right now. Katrina, you raised it, so I want to just interrogate it for a moment. You raised the specter of Chicago this summer, and I heard the subtle reference to Chicago in 1968. I believe for quite some time now, this convention in Chicago is going to be on fire this summer for a variety of reasons. And every day there's breaking news like yesterday and today and the presidential debate of last Thursday. I am more convinced that Chicago is going to be insane in August. I'll be broadcasting live. My nationally syndicated radio show will be broadcasting live from there for the entire week. So I'll be there in the thick of it. But at this point, given the way this story continues to develop and have legs, what are your expectations? What do you think is going to jump off in Chicago this summer?
Okay, so I was 7 years old, 68. My parents were at the convention, but you had, police riots outside. This time you could have, demos inside. But I do think, let me just plug for a moment, the Nation is doing an event with Rainbow Push honoring Reverend Jackson. And we're going to have Barbara Lee, Ro Khanna, Jamie Raskin speaking, and a few others.
I'll be there. I'll be there.
Good.
Yeah.
But I think depending on what happens now in the next few weeks, and by the way, you've probably reported, Tavis, that the DNC is working to move up the nomination process and not doing it end of August, not doing it mid-August, but doing it mid-July. So you lock it down more. But I think you're going to have protests about Gaza. You're going to have protests now about how Biden stayed in and not the people's wishes of saving democracy, demanding Biden step down. But I do think the Gaza protests, the uncommitted, will be holding demonstrations outside. Again, if you don't have the move to Kamala, you open it up and decide that you're going to release delegates before the convention and go to forums, etc. You come into the convention with 4 or 5 candidates with 40 delegates behind them. I think it's fractious. You used a more dangerous word, but it becomes very fractious.
Yeah.
So I think they're going to do everything. The DNC, which, by the way, I don't know if you've ever tried to get a membership list of the DNC, but it doesn't appear to be possible. For reasons we're now learning.
Yeah.
We'll have it locked down as much as they can so as to avoid a Chicago-style 1968.
When we come forward in our remaining moments with Katrina Vandenhoover, editorial director and publisher of The Nation magazine, I want to close this hour because it is sobering, quite sobering, this decision by the Supreme Court yesterday on immunity, which we'll be talking about for a few days because the impacts haven't even been felt, frankly, yet. We felt the earthquake, but now there are all these aftershocks, including, in case you didn't hear me earlier in this hour, Alvin Bragg in New York postponing, asking for a postponement of the sentencing on July 11th of Donald Trump in the case that he lost about the hush money payments, because they don't know how this decision yesterday impacts ultimately his conviction. So Donald Trump will not be sentenced on July 11th. Donald Trump's having a couple pretty good days here, going back to last Thursday, even though he lied his way through it. He's having some good days since Thursday. I digress on that for now. But I want to close with a sobering thought. If you did not see, if you have not read the dissent from Justice Sonia Sotomayor, I want to share just a little bit of it with you, get Katrina's thoughts, and we'll let her run. Let her go, move on to the next hour of this program. But I want to share what Sonia Sotomayor wrote. It is powerful. We'll do that when we come forward on Tavis Smiley.
For all the freedom-loving folk, this is Tavis Smiley.
I feel like freedom.
If you're like me, 60 and retired, making ends meet, especially here at the supermarket and drugstore, is tough. I'm so blessed to have found benefitscheckup.org. It's a free and confidential website from the National Council on Aging that connected me to $1,200 a year in programs that help pay for food, medicine, utilities, and more. Maybe it can help you. benefitscheckup.org.
You know where you want to go in life, and City National Bank can help. City National knows the dedication it takes to build your vision for the future into a reality, and our team is here for you. We have a wide range of options to help, from personal savings accounts to interest-bearing money market savings accounts and more, all designed to help you get where you want to go. City National, here for every stage of the journey. Learn more at cnb.com. City National Bank is a subsidiary of Royal Bank of Canada, member FDIC.
Paid for by government. Did you hear? A secret hoard of 1904 $20 Gold Liberty coins have been found. These gorgeous 1904p gold coins are as bright and shiny as the day they were struck, and less than 500 of these gold coins are available. Coin experts are calling this secret U.S. gold coin discovery a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, and you can own a piece of the hoard. When you call, you are guaranteed a 1904 Gold Liberty struck at the iconic Philadelphia Mint. With limited availability, you must call now. These 1904 dated gold coins are still in uncirculated condition with brilliant luster. That is 120 years of history you can hold in your hand. To learn more, call 1-800-973-3083. Call now and you'll receive a free bonus, a $75 value, free with every order. Call 1-800-973-3083 now to secure your 1904p $20 Gold Liberty coins before they sell out. That's 1-800-973-3083.
Watch out! You got me! The galaxy is safe once again.
In the pretend universe, kids play with pretend guns. In the real world, it's up to us to make sure they don't get their hands on a real gun. If you have a gun in the house, keep it locked, unloaded, and stored separately from ammunition. Safe gun storage saves lives. Learn how to make your home safer at endfamilyfire.org. That's endfamilyfire.org. Brought to you by End Family Fire, Brady, and the Ad Council.
Hey LA, today I'm here to talk to you about Grid Alternatives, which is a nonprofit in LA that focuses on renewable energy. We serve communities who have been left out of the renewable energy sector. We offer paid job training, and in 13 weeks, you can become a solar installer. 80% of our graduates get hired into the industry, and once you're hired in the industry, you stop at a high, medium income. That could be $20 an hour or more. 80% of our graduates get hired into the industry. Call today so you don't be left out at 323-861-0105 or gridalternatives.org, gridalternatives.org.
He's rooting for everybody black. Everybody black. More of Tavis Smiley coming your way right now.
Sometimes dissents are better than decisions, as far as I'm concerned. Thurgood Marshall was amazing at the dissents that he wrote. KBJ, Ketanji Brown Jackson, has already distinguished herself by many of the dissents that she has written. But yesterday, Sonia Sotomayor wrote a blistering dissent. And I want to read just a small piece of it and give Katrina the last word. Let the president violate the law. Let him exploit the trappings of his office for personal gain. Let him use his official power for evil ends. Because if he knew that he may one day face liability for breaking the law. He might not be as bold and fearless as we would like him to be. That is the majority's message today. Even if these nightmare scenarios never play out, and I pray they never do, the damage has been done. The relationship between the president and the people he serves has shifted irrevocably. In every use of official power, the president is now a king above the law. Orders the Navy's SEAL Team 6 to assassinate a political rival? Immune. Organizes a military coup to hold on to power? Immune. Takes a bribe in exchange for a pardon? Immune. Immune, immune, immune. With fear for our democracy, I dissent. Good Lord, Katrina Vanden Heuvel.
Dissent is often more powerful than decision. With fear for our democracy, may the people understand what is at stake and go beyond voting, which is critical, begin advocating for a more peaceful democratic future. And I always think of the fact that there are no lost causes. There are only causes waiting to be won, and the dissents in our history are probably the most patriotic democratic words. And Sonia Sotomayor, who revealed that she sometimes cries at work, going to work, is a voice of passion, democracy, and I believe that dissent will last far longer, especially if we can take back our country from these MAGA people.
Enough said. We close there. Katrina Vanden Heuvel always gives us insights, always challenges us to re-examine the assumptions we hold, always helps us expand our inventory of ideas, and for that I am grateful. Katrina, we'll do it again. All the best to you. Thanks for your time.
Thank you, Tavis. Take care.
More of thank you. Same to you, sweetie. More of Tavis Smiley when we come forward.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Mike Moore. Here's the latest from the Black Information Network. A former U.S. Capitol officer who defended the Capitol during the January 6th riot says Donald Trump is the single greatest threat to democracy. Harry Dunn, who is African-American, joined a call with the Biden campaign yesterday and slammed the Supreme Court's decision that Trump and other presidents are partially immune from criminal prosecution. Americans are traveling this summer and accumulating debt in order to do it. According to Bankrate, 36% say they plan to take on debt in order to travel this summer. 26% of those summer travelers say they intend to use a credit card to pay for the vacation over multiple billing cycles. With the average credit card charging over 20% interest at the moment, this is worrisome to many financial experts. And that's the latest. I'm Mike Moore from your 24/7 news source, the Black Information Network, and BINnews.com.
With Staples Hot Deals, you'll find super low prices on hundreds of items for back to school. Right now, 20%